Hi everyone, my name is Sophie and this is going to be my first video. So I'm going to talk today about derealization and depersonalization and my experience. Hopefully this will help a lot of people. I've been really dying to make a video like this for a few weeks now, but I wanted to make sure that I was certain about what I was going to talk about. And you can also see the little cavalier in the background, so sorry if he moves about a bit. So my experience, I'm going to make this as short as possible. It is a long story, but it is one that is going to hopefully encourage others and give people hope. Just to say, I am writing a book about this at the minute. It's going to be called DP Diaries, A Year to Get Back to Reality. And it's going to talk about all the things I did whilst I was suffering with severe derealization and depersonalization. Just to say now that I'm not actually cured yet, but I know what's going on now and I'm starting to finally see progress. I'm not totally cured, but hopefully in this channel, as I keep you updated, I'll let you know how the progress is going, and also like how it feels, because a lot of things I used to wonder was I wonder how it feels to just feel like normal again. And it's weird because this all started for me it was 10 months ago now, and I remember back then, like before it happened, I can't remember how it used to feel. Like obviously I was fine, but it just I'm so like used to waking up with this constantly every day that I'm almost like quite apprehensive about what it's going to feel to be normal. So my story is that I have suffered DR. I'll abbreviate it to DR because I might use that term quite a lot. I have suffered with DR before in the past, but it's been quite temporary. It's probably lasted the most a week. It's honestly been induced by drugs and alcohol usually. Like probably a lot of you, I've had a bad experience with weed. And I was a teenager, I smoked weed for the first time, quite a lot of it. Had this massive derealization episode where I thought I was like going crazy and I was going to die. Thankfully that only lasted that day until I went to sleep, woke up the next day and I think I was fine. So thankfully it didn't stick around for me, and I know that's happened to quite a lot of you as well. But I'm going to talk about that and why it has happened, why I think it happened anyway. And just to let you know, I'm not a professional or a medical professional. I'm currently doing my foundation degree in counselling, and that's pretty much the professional experience I've got. This is all coming from my personal experience, and I think, to be honest, a lot of professionals don't really understand this condition until they've experienced it before, because it's all textbook things. Like in the DSM, they have depersonalization disorder as a mental health disorder, and some of you may have been diagnosed with that, but I'm going to tell you now, and this is just my opinion, that I don't think depersonalization disorder exists. I don't think it's a disorder. I think it's a symptom. And I've kind of found that out on my own. It's like saying heart palpitation disorder, like when you have anxiety, or, like shaking tremors. There is obviously essential tremor and, things like that. But I just feel like a lot of disorders are symptoms of one bigger picture, and I think depersonalization disorder is one of those conditions. It's also quite like daunting being diagnosed with DP disorder. It's like you've got this for the rest of your life. What quality of life are you gonna have? I just like, it's like putting a full label on it and thinking I'm stuck with it. Like, how awful and daunting. So I'll get in my story. I'm sorry if I ramble off and go on a tangent. It's because I've got a lot to say. So yeah, 10 months ago I was just kind of living a normal life. I moved house probably like a week before this happened. But my life was fine, like there was no massive stress, you know, like I was in uni, but I was managing it fine. I was quite confident, you know. My anxiety levels they've always been quite up and down. I go through periods of like having problems with anxiety, but they weren't usually accompanied with DR. It was more like just nervousness or worrying and like procrastinating. There wasn't any dissociation like there has been in the past, but it's been induced by other things, not just because I was anxious. So it was around Christmas time. I'd been eating a lot of junk. I'd been like going out, drinking a lot. Like my diet was terrible. You know, I was just drinking a lot. I'm 27 now, so like any person my age, pretty typical. So I went out one night with my friend and I felt a little bit sick. We'd been drinking quite a lot. You know, I used to drink pints of Strongbow and, you know, it's like full of sugar, it's just acid. And we went to this other pub, I had shots of tequila. I just got absolutely bladdered, but like more so than usual. And I remember that night I felt so drunk, like unbelievably intoxicated, like my head was spinning. So I come home, I fell asleep on the sofa, and then I woke up in the middle of the night vomiting because I went to bed so drunk with all that alcohol in my system. I just started vomiting in the middle of the night everywhere. But you know, I just thought, like, I've just made a mess of myself. I'm just going to take myself to bed. So I went to bed, and this is the room I was in. Lay in bed and just kind of like felt just, you know, really hungover, but I wasn't dissociated or anything. I was just kind of like, you know, one of the hangovers that you just have to, you know, it'll pass. And then out of nowhere, I just kind of had this feeling of feeling a bit weird. Like I felt like someone had just pulled a plug out of my brain. It was like so sudden, and I shouted at my partner at the time. He come upstairs and I just had a massive panic attack. Like I've had probably about 7 or 8 panic attacks in my life. But this time it was like one of the ones where I thought I was going to die. So I was clinging onto him, crying my eyes out, like shaking. And I had just like pins and needles in my head, like zzz, my whole brain was just buzzing. And I was like, what the fuck? It was just so, sorry for swearing, what on earth? It was just so like terrifying. And I just thought, right, okay, I'm really hungover. I'm just going to go in the bath, you know, like try and sort myself out, because I had been lying in bed all day, and this was about 3-4 o'clock. So I went in the bath, and I remember walking to the bathroom, I just felt like I was on another planet. Like I felt like an absolute alien. I had to like hold on to the walls as I was walking to the toilet. So I ran a bath. I got in the bath and I asked my boyfriend to get me a can of beer, because I was like, I couldn't face the hangover. And normally in the past, where if I've been hungover, I've just like really bad, I've had like a can just to like calm us down. And I wasn't an alcoholic or anything, but I did used to drink quite heavily, probably like 3 times a week. So he brought me up a drink, and I looked at him and I didn't recognise him. And I looked at him and I was like, I just couldn't recognise his face. He was just like a stranger. And I was like, I was just like crying like a little girl. I was like, I don't recognise you. He was going, it's all right. And I was like, no, I don't recognise you. Like, what's going on? Something's going on. So I decided to ring 111. I just thought like my whole reality had just been torn away from us. I rang 111 and I told them what was going on. You know, like I was just in massive panic, like constant panic. And they were like, right, come down to the walk-in centre. So I went down, and so I'm going to be a bit crude here, but when I got there, I just voided my bowels in the toilet, like everything just come away. was being sick at the same time. Diarrhea was horrendous. Like, I just basically purged, like, totally. I was in the waiting room and I was just shaking. I was just curled up in a ball, just quivering. Like, I thought I was just going to die. At any second, I was just going to die. The nurse called me in and she kind of checked all my vitals. And I remember just looking at the floor, like tears streaming down my eyes. And I was like, I said, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I was like, I think I'm losing my mind. And she was like, you're not. It's just anxiety. But I've had anxiety before. And it's never been to where I've actually been convinced that I was losing my mind. Like, and I've studied counselling and psychology and mental health for years now. I'm no stranger to mental health problems. And this was like another level. Like, I didn't even know this existed. There wasn't psychosis, but it was like, you know, like, if you suffer from DP or DR, it's like you just feel like you've basically been put on a different planet. You feel like you're in some sort of video game, like a VR, and trapped. It's just hell. I just didn't, every second was torture. I didn't want to be in my own body. So she was like, and she thought I'd been spiked with something, because I was convinced I had been spiked with some drug the day before, like ecstasy. I really don't, like, not, my body doesn't respond well to drugs at all. I haven't had ecstasy before, but I've had like cocaine and amphetamines when I was younger, and it would take us a week to even like leave the house or feel normal. Whereas my friends would just be like doing it all day, like the next day, and be fine. But I just really struggled. I used to struggle a lot with it, and I just stopped. That's another thing I'll go into at some point in this journey. So I just left she'd done all the blood tests. She said she couldn't find anything, but I would need to go to A&E to get other blood tests for, like liver damage, whatever. So I went A&E, still just totally out of it. I had my pyjamas on at this point. Like, I think I had slippers and pyjamas on. Just couldn't even get changed. So I went A&E, waited like, I think it was like 3-4 hours. And you know what, even recalling this makes me anxious, but I have to let you know what happened. Went A&E and they just did more tests, and they just said everything's fine. It's just a hangover, go home, you're fine. So I thought, right, maybe I'll go home, have a lot of water and go to bed, and it'll be okay the next day. So I went home and I was just like, I just remember sitting on the carpet in my living room, looking around, and the walls were just like really far away. I just felt like my perception was all off. Like, I felt like I had taken like a really strong hallucinogenic. It was just awful. And so I went to bed the next day. I just woke up the same. I was just so dissociated. I just felt like, and the anxiety and depression had just swooped in. So I was like, right, something isn't right, but maybe I've been spiked, and it's going to take about 5 days for this drug to come out of my system. Maybe that's what it is, and I just need to like rest. So I just spent, and this was like the 28th of December. So I thought, like, I should be alright by New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, I'll be fine. And I basically just stayed in bed and just kept getting worse. Didn't eat, couldn't eat a thing. Just felt so nauseated and sick. I just felt poisoned, like riddled with poison, but I didn't know what. And then on New Year's Day, so New Year's Eve, I went to my mum's house. And I just tried to like be part of life. And I just went to my mum's house. I was so ill. I had another panic attack when I got there. I was clinging onto her, and I was just like, I just can't even describe. Like, I hope you understand what I mean, because I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Like, if you've never experienced it, then it just doesn't sound like much, but it just feels like your life's caving in, and it doesn't even feel like your life anymore. It just feels like you're in hell. Like the whole world that you've known to be real crumbles in front of your eyes. And I was just clinging on to my mum, just saying like I'm just like, I can't breathe, I don't know what to do. I was just listening to my heartbeat to try and like ground us. And I'm 27 and I'm not really a clingy or needy person, but this had me in bits. I was so scared. So that night, New Year's Eve, I just tried to like just be present, and we just watched the telly, and every moment I was sat there, I just couldn't really, I just felt awful. And then so the next day, New Year's Day, so I went to bed, woke up next day, I went to the toilet and I was vomiting again, and it was just blood, a lot of blood come up, and I was like, right, this isn't normal, like something's fucking wrong. I was like, I can't, like, how can I function like this ever again? I just thought I'd be like that forever, like that was it for me, and I was just gonna die. So I rang the ambulance, and I was like 111, sorry, and I was lying on my bed, and I just remember I couldn't lift any part of my body. I was just paralysed, and just a dead body, in like a soul trapped in a dead body, and I was still conscious, but I just couldn't move. So I rang 111, they sent an ambulance round, and I had all these theories about what was going on, and at this point I had thought that perhaps I had left a tampon in for a few days and I had toxic shock syndrome maybe. So I was like, right, maybe that's it. So I told the ambulance driver, well, like they carried us basically each arm down the stairs, and I was like, I think I'm poisoned. Like I just couldn't even lift my head up. The tears were just streaming down my face, but I wasn't crying. I just felt like a dead person. So they took us in the ambulance and they done all the tests. They didn't really get anything out of them tests. Took me into the A&E, where I waited like, it was New Year's Day, so I was waiting a long time, 5 hours, I think it was, 4 hours. I was just sat in the chair, and I had to get like a wet paper towel to put on my head to just like feel some sort of something, like a temperature. I just felt so out of it. Anyway, they took me in the room, and I remember I said to them, I was like, can you please, my partner came, and I was like, can you just tell them to please like see us, because I think I'm gonna die. Like I can't be like this for much longer. I feel like I'm gonna die. So they done my bloods, I went into a bed, they done everything, they literally done swabs, urine tests, examination down there, like to see if there was anything there, and they were like, you're fine. They were like, there's nothing, can't find anything wrong, it's just anxiety. And that absolutely killed us. Like I just hoped they found anything just to treat us and do something. But when they said that, I just burst out crying. I was like, I can't go home, I'm gonna die. They were like, you're alright, you'll be alright. They gave us an injection of anti-nausea, sent us home. And I just felt so devastated. Like I just can't even describe how devastated I felt, because I knew something was wrong. I had the really severe depersonalization, but I was also physically ill, where I was just purging out the back end constantly, and I just couldn't eat. Even something to drink would just come straight out. Like it was just like a severe case of some sort of poisoning. This story is very long, because obviously this has been going on for 10 months, but I went home, and the next 2 months I spent in bed. And it does go a lot in more depth than that, but so I'm going to write a book about it, because there's a lot to talk about. But I went back to A&E at one point, because I went to a different hospital, because they specialised in toxic cases and poisoning like cases, and I thought maybe I've got some sort of like parasite. maybe they can test us for stuff. Went back there, done just generic tests and sent us home again and again. Like, I just wanted to just die, really. I just didn't want to live like that. I was in so much suffering, emotional, physical turmoil. So I woke up one day, it was probably about 2 weeks after, and I just thought, like, I can't do this another day. I just want to die. Like, I think I'm wanting to kill myself. And on the outside, my life, I had so much to live for. Like, I had everything that I could possibly want. I wasn't perfect, but, you know, whose life is? I was just a normal person living a decent, content life, and I felt like my whole life had just been taken away. And also it got to the point where my family and my partner were starting to think it was psychological and there was nothing wrong with me, and I was just kind of tired or stressed or just anxious, going through a phase. You know, I just needed to rest for a week. It's just a bug, and then I'll come back to normal. I just knew, like, something was really wrong. So I woke up and I just said I didn't want to live anymore, and I had these beta blockers that I had actually bought online to try and calm us down, but I was actually too scared to take them in case there weren't beta blockers or something. My GP wouldn't give me any because I've got a history of asthma, so I just ordered them online. And I couldn't even go in to see the GP because it just took 2 weeks to get an appointment. I thought, I can't wait that long, I'm going to have to get something to calm me down. And I woke up one morning and I thought, I'm going to take that whole box of beta blockers and just see what happens. Like, if I don't die, then maybe they'll take me to hospital and find out what the hell is wrong. If I do die, then at least I'm out of the suffering. Like, it just sounds crazy because 2-3 weeks before I was fine. Like, I had no suicidal thoughts ever, and then in a matter of 3 weeks I was going to end my whole 26 years of life. Like, just that, how can that just happen because you're anxious? It doesn't. The worst thing about it was the dissociation and the depersonalization, because I felt like so detached from people and humanity. Like, I would go outside, look around and just feel like I can't describe it. Like, it was just like a video game and there was no way to claw my way back to reality. So, and it's just like I felt trapped by the whole thing. So I rang in 111 again. I said, look, I'm going to commit suicide and I need help. Like, something you can do, because I'm scared I'm going to actually kill myself. So they're like, right, okay, we'll put you in touch with the crisis team. I live up north England, so we have a crisis team for emergency, like, I guess, mental health problems. So they phoned them and they phoned me back and they talked to me about it, and I was like, I fear that I'm going to like take these propanol, whatever they're called, and kill myself because I just can't cope anymore. I was just sobbing and I just was unconsolable. So they were like, right, we'll send someone round. So I was just sitting in the house and I just thought, like, I can't just sit here, like, I'm gonna have to get out, I can't, like, breathe. So I went and actually drove to a park. No matter what happened, I was still able to drive because driving just kept the independence, and I'm an alright driver anyway. Somehow I just got in the car and I just started driving, and I just thought, I'm gonna drive to this park. But so I went there, and then I just started driving, like, and they said they would phone me when they were gonna come round, but my partner phoned me and they were like, they're here, and I wasn't there. So I drove back, obviously came back, and they must have thought, you know, she's fine, she's driving. But I just come back and I just told them, like, everything. I was like, I just feel like I was just like this. I just couldn't even look at them. I was just like, I just had my hands over my face like that, just in absolute, like, despair. I was like, I just feel like I've went crazy, lost touch with reality, and I feel like I've gone crazy. Basically, they just kind of listened and said, it just sounds like anxiety and you need to go to the doctors and get some antidepressants. And that was it. And I was like, right. But at this point I just thought, right, I'll take the antidepressants. I've always rejected them in the past because I've been scared about drugs. I know drugs don't work well with me, even like I'm really sensitive to everything. I don't react positively to anything, so most things. So I thought, right, I'm going to make an appointment and get some antidepressants. Maybe they'll just miraculously cure me. So this video is half an hour long, and that is the first part of what happened. I'm going to split it up into parts because it's just going to be too long, and I'll post the videos like periodically, but that is the start. That's when the depersonalization just come out of nowhere, and I just felt like I couldn't even connect to anyone, or I couldn't even look at anyone's face because I couldn't recognise them, and it was terrifying. I couldn't even look around a room. I just wanted to stay in bed and avoid everything because it was such a scary world. Weird perception, weird everything. Everything was just weird. So I'll continue the story in the next video, but hopefully maybe you can relate to this a little bit. Maybe it's like this might give you a bit of ear pricking and thinking, you know, this sounds a bit like me, and you want to know what happened and how I discovered what on earth was going on. So I'll post an update the next video very soon, and I'll speak to you soon.